All right, Raiders Nation, buckle up because things are heating up around our Las Vegas Raiders. The rumors are flying, the trade deadline is creeping closer, and a few whispers from around the league have got fans in full panic mode. Yeah, we're talking about the big one, the buzz that the Dallas Cowboys might be sniffing around for none other than Max Crosby. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's slow it down and really break this down because there's a lot to unpack here, and not everything you hear online is what it seems. So, this all started when former ESPN host Trey Wingo mentioned that the Cowboys had reached out to the Raiders to ask about a potential trade for Max. Now, Trey's not exactly Adam Schefter, but he's a guy with real connections across the NFL. When someone like him says a team made a call, it's worth paying attention. And if that wasn't enough to stir the pot, Schefter himself jumped in, hinting that the Cowboys could be one of the most active teams to watch as the trade deadline approaches. When those two stories dropped close together, the internet exploded. Fans started connecting dots that might not even exist. But hey, that's what we do. We chase the smoke to see if there's fire. Now, to clear things up, another source quickly came out and basically poured water all over the fire. According to multiple insiders, the Raiders have zero intention of trading Max Crosby this season. And honestly, that makes total sense. Anyone who's followed this team for a while knows how important Max is, not just on the field, but inside that locker room. He's the emotional engine, the guy who plays every down like it's his last, and the one dude that Raider fans rally behind no matter what. Trading him now would feel like tearing the heart out of this team. But still, let's talk about why the rumor even started. When you look at Max's contract, it's easy to see why people around the league would find it interesting. Earlier this year, the Raiders restructured his deal, locking him in with a 3-year extension worth a little over $100 million. The key part, though, it's front-loaded. That means most of the money hits in the first few seasons, which gives the team flexibility down the road. If, and this is a huge if, the Raiders still aren't winning by 2026 or 2027, then yeah, a trade might make a little more sense financially. There are no guarantees in the later years of that contract, and that was part of the plan from the start. Max wanted security early, and he also wanted the freedom to explore his options later if the team still hadn't turned things around. Now, imagine you're a general manager somewhere else in the league. You're looking at Max Crosby, an elite pass rusher, a culture changer, and you realize that even at his price, he's an absolute bargain compared to what some other teams are paying. Think about it. While top pass rushers are signing deals north of $45 million a year, Max's contract averages closer to $32 million per season through the end of the decade. That's a deal most teams would jump on without thinking twice. So yeah, it makes total sense that Dallas or any contender would at least make a phone call. But that doesn't mean the Raiders are listening. Let's play pretend for a second, though. If the Cowboys really did want Max Crosby, what would it take? You're not just talking about sending over 1 or 2 decent players. The Raiders will be looking for a mountain of draft capital. 2 first-round picks, maybe more. Because if you're giving up a guy who is not only your best defender, but also your team's leader, you better get something monumental in return. We're not talking about a mid-round pick swap here. This is the kind of trade that resets a franchise, one that only happens when you've accepted a full rebuild. And let's be honest, nobody in Vegas wants to hear the word rebuild again so soon. Here's what makes this all a little more personal, though. Max Crosby isn't just another player wearing silver and black. He's the emotional connection between the team and the fans. Since that Hard Knock season back in 2019, he's been the embodiment of what it means to be a Raider. He's been through injuries, personal battles, tough seasons, and he's never stopped grinding. That's why the thought of him in another uniform feels like a nightmare to so many fans. It's not just about losing a player, it's about losing an identity. But even as much as that loyalty runs deep, it's important to remember that no player is truly untouchable. The NFL is a business, and sometimes tough calls have to be made. If the Raiders ever do decide to start over completely, the most valuable trade chip they have is number 98. You can't rebuild without draft picks, and you can't get big draft returns without offering up something elite in return. It's the cold reality of the sport, even if it hurts to say out loud. That said, there's also a reason why I still don't buy into the idea that this would happen now. The Raiders are in a rough spot record-wise, sure, but moving Crosby mid-season doesn't fix anything. It would send the wrong message to the locker room and to the fan base. And more importantly, there's something special about the bond between Max Crosby and owner Mark Davis. That relationship runs deeper than most people realize. In fact, people close to the organization have hinted for years that if Max spends his entire career in Las Vegas, there's a real possibility he could end up with a stake in the team once he hangs up the cleats. That's how much he means to the franchise. And when you think about life after football, that's something you can't overlook. Championships matter, of course, but so does legacy. So does the life you build after the pads come off. Max is smart enough to know that his long-term value might actually be higher if he stays loyal to the Raiders for good. If he retires as the face of this team, as the guy who helped define the Las Vegas era of Raiders football, his future earnings from endorsements, appearances, and even business ties could easily surpass what he's made from his playing contracts. That's not speculation. That's just reality for a player of his stature in a city like Vegas. Now, I know Raider Nation is frustrated. The team's struggling, the energy feels off, and people are desperate for something to believe in. Max feels that too. You can hear it when he talks after games. You can see it in his body language. He wants to win just as badly as any fan in the stands, maybe even more. And when you're wired like him, it's hard to stomach losing. But that doesn't mean he's ready to quit on this team. Quite the opposite. If anything, he's the one keeping everyone else from giving up. Still, you can't ignore that 1% chance, the tiny window where something unexpected could happen. Max grew up in Texas. He's got family down there, and Dallas is always looking for that one piece to push them over the top. That's why people keep talking, because on paper, the fit makes sense. But when you dig deeper, you realize it's just not the right time, and it's probably not the right situation. So let's be real. These rumors? They're just noise for now. Crosby's not going anywhere. Not this season. The Raiders have too much to figure out before even thinking about moving their best player. But that doesn't mean the conversations stop. As long as the Raiders struggle, people around the league are going to keep calling, keep asking, and keep hoping that somehow they can pry number 98 away for Vegas. It's the price of having a superstar. And for Raider Nation, it's a reminder that even in the chaos, we've still got one of the baddest defenders in the game anchoring our team. And that's why this story matters. Not because a trade is coming, but because it shows just how much weight Max Crosby carries across the entire league. When teams as big as the Cowboys start poking around, it's not just about talent. It's about respect. It's about recognition. It's about knowing that when you face the Raiders, there's one man you always have to game plan for. And as long as he's in silver and black, that shield still means something. Now, let's flip the conversation and look at why a Max Crosby trade simply doesn't make sense right now. Beyond the emotional and symbolic weight, there are clear football reasons this move would never happen during this season. First and foremost, Max isn't just another defensive star. He's the foundation of everything the Raiders are trying to build. You take him out of the equation, and what's left? A defense that already struggles to find consistency, a locker room without its leader, and a fan base that's already walking on thin ice with how the team has been performing. That's not a recipe for progress. That's a recipe for collapse. The truth is, Max Crosby is wired differently. He's not the kind of guy who just wants to collect stats or chase a ring with the easy route. He wants to win here with the Raiders. This team gave him a chance when others overlooked him. They believed in him before he became one of the best pass rushers in the league. That loyalty still means something to him. And if you've ever heard him talk about Raider Nation, you can tell it's personal. He bleeds silver and black. And he said multiple times that he wants to be a Raider for life. And that's where his relationship with Mark Davis comes back into play. Not many players in the NFL have that kind of connection with their owner. It's not just about contracts and numbers. There's real trust there. People close to the team have mentioned that Max and Mark talk often, and that Max's input carries real weight inside the building. If there's one player in the league who might eventually have a post-career role as part of a franchise's ownership group, it's Max Crosby with the Raiders. That's why a trade doesn't line up. Why would Davis ever ship off the guy who could be the future face of the franchise, not just on the field, but off it too? Now, it's fair to say that fans are restless. When a team sits at 2-5, everyone's looking for answers, and rumors become easy fuel for frustration. But if you think about it logically, trading your best player when the season is still ongoing doesn't help anyone. It doesn't fix your offense, it doesn't rebuild your defense, and it doesn't make you a contender overnight. It would send a message that the Raiders are giving up, and that's the last thing the organization can afford right now. But since we're on the topic of trades, there's another name that's been floating around lately, Jakobi Meyers. Reports suggest the Raiders might be open to moving him, though they're not exactly shopping him around. Meyers is a solid wide receiver, and when he's on, he brings a lot to the offense. The problem is that he reportedly requested a trade earlier in the season, and that's never a good sign. When a player wants out, it usually means there's tension somewhere behind the scenes. And while he might be the #1 option in the passing game right now, the Raiders also have to think long-term. Meyers is talented, but the team drafted a few young receivers this year, and those rookies need playing time. If the Raiders can get value back for him, maybe a mid-round pick or a player who fills another need, they might listen. It's not a guarantee he's gone, but it's definitely a situation to keep an eye on. Losing him would hurt in the short term, especially for Geno Smith and the offense. But if the front office is already thinking about reshaping the roster for next year, that move could make some sense. Now, let's talk about what the Raiders are reportedly looking for in return. Diana Rosini mentioned that the team has been calling around about cornerbacks and defensive linemen. That tells you a lot about where their priorities are right now. They're not trying to blow everything up. They're trying to fix the weak spots. Corner has been an issue all season, and while the defensive line has flashes of dominance, it still lacks consistent depth. The coaches know it, the front office knows it, and the players definitely know it. There are a few names that could fit the bill. Riq Woolen from Seattle is one that keeps coming up, mostly because of his connection with Pete Carroll. He's young, athletic, and has experience in a system similar to what the Raiders are running now. Then there's Alani Taylor from New Orleans, another player who has ties to Raiders coaches. The Saints aren't playing great football right now, and they might be willing to part ways with a young corner if the deal is right. Both of those names would bring speed and flexibility to a secondary that badly needs both. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers around the league have turned into outright chatter as Austin Ekeler's arrival at the Las Vegas Raiders promises to shake up the ground game like never before. Known for his electric versatility in Los Angeles, Ekeler has long been the Swiss Army knife of offensive production, seamlessly blending between explosive carries, reliable pass catching, and a knack for finding the end zone. Now, Raiders fans are buzzing with anticipation that this could mark a new era for the franchise's rushing attack. Insiders suggest that the Raiders' offensive scheme could undergo a subtle but impactful transformation. Ekeler isn't just another back. He's a game-changer who demands defensive attention on every snap. Coaches around the league have reportedly marveled at his ability to create mismatches in the open field, forcing linebackers to make split-second decisions that often end in chaos. With him in the backfield, the Raiders are suddenly more than a vertical threat. They're a multi-dimensional nightmare. Rumors indicate that the locker room is already embracing Ekeler's presence. Younger players are said to be energized, inspired by his work ethic and infectious enthusiasm. Meanwhile, veteran leadership sees his arrival as a catalyst for both morale and strategic flexibility. Some league insiders speculate that the Raiders may start to lean more heavily on Ekeler in short-yardage situations, but also exploit his surprising agility to stretch defenses horizontally. While official statements remain cautious, the buzz around Las Vegas is unmistakable. A revitalized running game could change the narrative for a team often defined by inconsistency. Fans have been quick to flood social media with expectations, debating which plays will best harness Ekeler's talents. Will he elevate the Raiders to playoff contention, or is this just another fleeting flash in the pan? Only time will tell, but the murmurs in training facilities and the locker room suggest one thing clearly. Austin Ekeler is not here to blend in. He's here to transform the game. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.